everyone, welcome back to Immigration Talk Show. I'm your host Sam, and we are live right now at 2 p.m. EDT on YouTube. And I'm so happy to have you all here, and thank you so much, guys, for joining us on this platform as we are back again with another very exciting and very insightful session. And before diving in, let me read out this very important disclaimer. By watching our videos, you agree and understand that the information shared by our experts and attorneys, including comments and replies from users, is not a legal advice. So, use of information at your own risk. All right, once again, friends, welcome back everyone to Immigration Talk Show. I'm your host, Sam. And so happy to have you all here. And also, we are live on YouTube, available on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram as well. So, do follow us on these many platforms. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, then do it right now because we come up with latest updates and also some amazing webinars. And similarly, we do have this webinar today on the topic H-1B visa myths versus reality. What is the truth? That sounds super interesting. Also, with the guest whom we are going to have this session, is also very, I would say, energetic and very much so bold in her statements. So I'm really happy to have her here again, and let me welcome attorney Nandini Nair, who is a partner at AY Strauss and leads the immigration practice with over 25 years of unmatched expertise. And her insights have been featured in the New York Times, CNN, Bloomberg, and more, and she has been recognized as a trailblazer in the legal field. So, hi Nandini, and thank you so much for being here with us. It's really our honor to have a show with you.
Thank you so much, Sam. I really appreciate asking me back. I'm glad the last time went well, and I'm happy to be here.
That's great. And in fact, we all are so happy and excited for the show. And this is the second time that we are meeting. So thank you so much again for joining us. And I'm sure our viewers are excited for this session because, Nandini, whenever we talk about myths and facts, we have multiple questions. I mean, there's no limit to it. So many myths we didn't even, understand, like, oh, are these myths? So it's like going to be really exciting. And before diving into the topic, if you could please give us a brief what our viewers can expect from today's webinar.
I think the big overall thing today is to break down what is actually the reality, right? I know that there's a lot of forums out there, WhatsApp groups, Telegram, where a lot of information gets jumbled and it's very wrong, inaccurate, misinterpreted, and it really creates a lot of turmoil and probably issues for individuals. So the goal today, let's break down some of the myths. Let's break down and show you what actually is the reality. Is there possibilities? Is there none? So that you have an accurate picture of what you isn't there in store for you tomorrow. So that's the goal of today's show.
That's right. I think it's really going to be very insightful as you are going to separate facts from fiction. And this is what we all need. So I think without any further ado, Nandini, let's go ahead with my very first question. And this is a very important one because you have so many years of practice and you have been with so many people around there. So according to you, which is one of the biggest myth about the H-1B visa that you come across often in your practice?
One of the biggest myths I would say is, outside of people who use the program or understand the program. So a lot of people think the H-1B program is used by companies to bring in cheap labor, right? Foreign labor, right? They're underpaid, they're working, 60-hour weeks, all of these type of things. That's the common mentality, scenario, perspective of individuals who are not in immigration, who don't, use foreign talent. So, and again, that's an absolute myth. So we're talking reality. Majority of professions in the H-1B program are actually paid incredibly high compared to an average US worker. Now, if you go to San Francisco and you look for a job as a software engineer, for example, you are making over $100,000, maybe $150,000. I mean, at a base level, that's what an entry level H-1B person can work at. It has to work at. So how is that cheap labor? Cheap labor, I would say, is somebody making less than $60,000. That's cheap labor. So there is an absolute myth across the country that this program just brings in these individuals and they're being paid, $10 an hour, and it's not regulated. There's not compliance, and it's a complete abuse going on. And that is actually false. Now, I'm not here to say that there isn't abuse in the program. Every program you name out there, whether it's Medicare, whether it's, the education, anything, there's going to be a small element of fraud in it or misrepresentations. And the H-1B program is no, better than that. But the thing is that there are so many legitimate people. There's so many legitimate employers. There's so much that is right with the program that people just don't understand. They just fall for that myth. This is cheap foreign labor, and that we should eliminate this program because of that. That's the number one myth I hear all the time.
Wow. Thank you so much, Nandini, for putting that up. And I think it was very important. Of course, cheap labor, we all have that thing in our mind. And most of the time, when we also hear from most of the workers themselves, then they also put up these point of views. Of course, different people have their own opinions, but it makes creates a lot of confusion with that. And of course, you mentioned it clearly, it's nothing about that.
Mhm.
So that's really good, and thank you so much for just clearing up that very important confusion. Okay, so let's move ahead with the next very important question, and that is about green card. So
Mhm.
Nandini, many believe that the H-1B path is directly connected to green card. If you're going to get H-1B, you are going to get your green card. So is it true, and how accurate is that assumption?
Well, if there was such thing as a guarantee in life, I would be a millionaire. There is no such thing as this. Okay. No, you cannot. Just because you come here on an H1 does not guarantee any sort of pathway to a green card, because you know why? It's not in your control. It's up to an employer to file for you. And even along the way, there's so many steps involved. It could get denied. The employer can withdraw it at some point. You may move to another job. There's just different things that can stop and put hurdles up where there is no green card at the end of the day for you. Now, the good thing about it is, yes, is there a pathway? Absolutely. There is a path once you come here. If you have an employer who's willing to do that for you, they follow the correct steps, they have a good attorney on their, helping them through this process. Yes, there is a pathway to the green card. But is it guaranteed? Absolutely not. Immigration is not something that is a guarantee in life at all. It is something that has to be evaluated, looked at based on the current law, not what was happening 20 years ago, right? So it's an evolving and fluid situation always. So don't fall for that. Oh, come here on an H, I'm going to get my green card. That's not true. That's absolutely a myth.
That's right. Because so many people think that if they are going to get H-1B, automatically they are going to be a green card, get the green card. But absolutely, there's no guarantee. And if there will be guarantee, then everybody will be a millionaire. But that,
Yeah. I would I would not I would be living like a different life if I could get you. If I said to someone I can guarantee you that green card, yeah, that would be a different life whatsoever. But no, it's not true. The best part is, like I said,
Mhm.
there is a path, and you have to get onto that path, but there's no guarantee at the end of the day. So, but at least we have an avenue for you.
Absolutely, and that's very well put up. All right, so let's move ahead with the next question, or I would say next myth. As Nandini, there's a lot of talk that H-1B visa holders are underpaid as compared to the US workers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not only, we have been hearing like from past 1 year, from past 2 years. I would say from the time, people are crazy about for the H-1B. So it's been a very
Mm-hmm.
long time that people are been complaining, I would say, or been saying that they are paying less as compared to the US workers. So what's your call on that? If you could please
Right.
let us know the reality.
I mean, I don't think that's the reality. I think that, we have a wage scale that's mandatory for the H-1B program. It's not that an employer can just pick out a salary and pay the worker that way. No, there are things that are in place by the US government, and not by the employer, by the US government, who've done these surveys, and they say, hey, you need to pay at this level, you need to pay this minimum salary. Now, sometimes those salaries, I will say, are not moving up to inflation and, certain standard of living. But regardless, I don't think it is underpaid compared to US workers. For your viewers to understand that wage levels, where it comes from, the Department of Labor, which runs the labor of us, as employees in the United States, they do surveys every year through sampling of companies. So it's not like the Indian company or the Chinese company is the ones who are providing this data. No, they do their own data survey. And that's where they come up with an average estimation of where the salaries should be for this profession in this county. So there's actually metrics and there's actually data behind that wage that you're seeing on that website. So it's not arbitrary, it's not randomly selected, it's none of those type of things. And when you do a comparison of that salary to a US job, you are going to see it's not equal, it might be slightly better. Are there areas and professions that are going to be a little bit less? But that's data. The Department of Labor said, hey,
Yeah.
that job is not as you're paying this way. So I don't like that talk that H-1B workers are underpaid. I think there is metrics involved and there's boundaries and guidelines and guardrails available. Does it move up based on inflation? Maybe not. And that's what I would give to a foreign worker who's here complaining about the job or complaining about wages
Mhm.
not going up enough. Maybe there's some truth behind that, but it's not like the program is looking to do that.
Wow, that's great. And I think most importantly, it's about the earnings, that is why the H-1B workers go to the US. And when they says about these things, it really stops the other people also to move to the US, and it demotivates them
Mm.
because they are not ready for these things. But Nandini, I mean, why these confusions are happening? I mean, what do you think? What can be the cause? Why these so many myths are rising for the H-1B?
I mean, I think we have a really big population of H-1B workers now. I've been practicing 25 years. When I first started, this was not a known program
Right.
like that. I think Y2K, the tech booms and all have created an influx of people. So when you have an influx of people,
Yeah.
they're going to talk, right? And they're going to have a friend of a friend of a friend who had one bad experience. And that seems to set some sort of story or rumor out there in all of these, forums and stuff. Oh, well, this is what's going on. I think I said in the previous show, I joined some of these forums, right, as like a bystander to see what's going on, what's the talk and stuff. And I'm amazed by the misinformation that keeps spreading. And I think that's what's going on, that why people are holding on to these myths and these stories and these rumors, because it's just going like wildfire in a lot of these WhatsApp groups and telegrams and stuff like that. It's one person's experience, two persons experience, 10 persons experience. It does not define the program and define everyone in that who's on an
Mhm.
H-1B. That part is not being looked at more carefully. It it's kind of like you want to believe the bad, but what about the good?
That's right. So, what message would you like to share with our viewers who are planning to go with the H-1B, or who are experiencing H-1B? Like how they can be careful regarding myths versus reality.
I mean, I think talk to an obviously lawyer. Like one of the things that people don't realize is there are a lot of lawyers who will do free consultations, or they'll do a consultation for $100, $150. And I always tell people, go get that opinion. If you're worried or concerned, you don't know for sure, do the
Mhm.
consultation. It doesn't hurt you at all to spend half an hour with an experienced lawyer who corrects you. Wouldn't you go do that with a doctor? If you don't feel well, right, you're going to the doctor. And if you get a bad diagnosis, aren't you going to a second opinion? Of course you are. So do the same. This is your life. This is your status. This is your everything. Why not get the correct information? Don't fall for those forums. Go to the source. Ask the questions you want to ask and go.
That's perfectly explained. And I think, Nandini, the way you are saying, it really feels so motivating. I mean, you just look into the eyes and you go on and speak. It feels so good. So I'm sure our viewers are not just, getting the information, but they are also getting that motivation that from now on, they are not just going to sit and listen, but they are also going to stand up and take the actions. Because, creating these confusions are really destroying everything. So these sessions
Yeah,
are really important. And thank you again for your time and for your support that you're here. And with that, I
I
would say,
appreciate
friends,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would tell your viewers like the one of the most important things to me is putting out correct information to individuals. I'm very straightforward. I don't want someone's life ruined because I said something wrong. So I'm very strong about these type of things and stuff. So and I care. I really deeply care about their lives and stuff like that. So for my clients, I want them to do well. So they do well, I do well. You know, I don't
That's
want to go home and sleep and be like, oh man, I messed up that case or something. I don't want to do that. That's somebody's life in their hand. In my hands. So that's kind of how I think.
Wow, that's great. And I think that's how everyone should be. And that too, when you are actually, I mean, somebody is relying on you. So I think that's great. And thank you so much, for putting up these very important information. And friends, till the time, we have covered few questions. We also have time, and we have 45 minutes another. So go ahead and put as many questions as possible, because this is the time you can get directly in touch with attorney Nandini Nair, and you'll also get the contact details. That is the best part of our session. That you can see the contact details on your screen, 973-287-0966, or else you can also go ahead and share your case or any doubts that you're having through email. Her email ID is nnair@avstrauss.com, and the website is www.aystrauss.com. So, with that, friends, also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Immigration Talk Show, as this is not just the amazing webinar we are having right now, there are more to go. So, to keep you updated with those amazing webinars, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Immigration Talk Show. All right, Nandini, so I'm loving the conversation, and let's go ahead with another one. There's also a common perception that H-1B workers are tied to single employer and have very limited job mobility. So what's the reality behind it? What options are actually available to them?
I think I'm gonna say it's dual thing, a myth and a reality. Okay, why is it a myth? Myth is no, you're not tied actually to um, one employer. You can move. If you're on an H-1B, it's portable, so you can move from A to B to C to D. Whatever opportunities are in front of you, you can absolutely do that. Of course, the challenge is every time you move, that new employer needs to go through the whole process, right, of the H-1B. And where is this the reality that hits a little bit? Because you have to refile, there's always that doubt of whether I'm going to get approved if I file that transfer, right? There's a risk. I'm not going to take that away from anyone to say, it's not a big deal or no, it's a risk, right? Because that petition can get denied, right?
Yeah.
So even though you might have moved A, B, C, and then D gets denied, that's an impact. So there is this nervousness in the foreign national employee population where they're scared to move because, hey, I have approval now. I have 3 years on this. I don't want to move because, what happens if I get denied? And especially, now we're in a difficult time in immigration, people would be more nervous about moving. So the myth is, I can't move. No, the reality is you can move. You can file, you can move from A to B to C to D, whatever times, how many times, there's no limitation, there's no waiting period, you can do it. The reality is every time you move, you got to refile from scratch. So there's a risk of denial, risk of, some other issue going on every time you do that. So it can kind of create that doubt, and almost like a feeling of like I'm stuck if because I'm so scared I don't want to make that attempt. But there are ways around it. And I always tell people, like, don't join the second employer. Like, you want to join until the case is approved. Don't be like moving on top of because you got a receipt notice. Try to premium process the case. So there's ways and strategies to minimize the risk and get it down to as low as possible. But that is where the strategy has to come in from your lawyer to understand how the process works.
That's right. That's wonderfully explained. And thank you so much, Nandini, for clearing up this factor because, so many employers are also there who gets like confusion on this topic as well.
Yeah.
So I hope that our friends are understanding this thing and you can move, but of course you have to start from scratch. So keep those pointers in mind, don't get confused, and have a proper, clear picture in your mind so that it will be easier for you to have your immigration journey in a smooth and relaxed manner. Okay, so Nandini, as you mentioned about premium processing, also, my next question will be that we have heard about premium processing, right? So is it something to do with the chances of the approval for the H-1B visa holders?
Okay, I know there's a big myth out there, and it's actually a dual myth. One myth is that if you file in premium, your case is more likely to approve. The other myth is that you file in premium, your case is most likely to be RFE'd, because that clock is ticking on the officer. And both are false. In my practice, I have seen none of that to be true, meaning that I have filed cases in premium and things I thought would should got an RFE, never got an RFE. Things that I thought were straightforward cases, getting RFEs. It's a very random thing. What is premium processing to your viewers? It's not for them to look at it and, make a judgment call or anything. It's to act upon the application. Yes, the officer's on a clock, right? That 15 days, tick, 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 is going on in the background. And maybe, the myth is they just issuing the RFE because they don't want to look at the case, or they're issuing the approval because they just want to get this off of their desk. Those are all, I think, personally myths. But do I like premium processing? 100%. Do I like the $2,800 that I have to pay? Not a chance. That's ridiculous for them to do their work. But it is something that's available. Here's the biggest benefit of premium for your viewers
That's right.
is that you get to talk or maybe email the officer. So there's the ability to make a little bit more contact with your case and on your case if you use premium processing. That is the biggest benefit. Otherwise, when you file in regular, and your viewers will see this, you got to call that 1-800 number or you got to put the online inquiry. You're not hearing back from anybody. I don't even think there's a live person there sometimes. I don't know where it's going to. So the benefit of premium is not about the approval or the denial, more that communication is available directly sometimes with the officer. And that is a critical thing in your application.
That's right. Absolutely. I think thank you so much, Nandini, for clearing up that because whenever we think about premium processing, spending more money, so we obviously think that now we spend more money, so we'll get more benefits. Benefits, as in our chances of getting our visa approved, is becoming more and more. But that doesn't happen. It's all about the process that
Mhm.
becomes faster.
That's right.
So that's great. That's wonderfully explained. And with that, let me go ahead with my next question. And this is something for the entrepreneurs mainly. So, is that H-1B visa holders can't start their own businesses? How much truth is there to this?
Okay, this is a more nuanced question. So the legal answer is yes, an H-1B can start their own business. Okay.
Mhm.
But the reality of it is different. The reality is that when you start your own business, you are not going to be able to start it and just be the own person in it, meaning that you have to be able to show your separation from the company. Okay, but the company stands on its own, and you are a worker bee, or but even though you're an owner. So how do you do that? The company has to have a board of directors. There's got to be other people who are able to control your decision making about the business. You cannot be the sole decision maker. So a lot of people are like, oh, you can just start your company. I'm just going to go incorporate. I'm going to work out of my basement. It's going to be in my wife's name, all of these type of things. And they think that is okay. No, that is not okay. That means you are working without authorization. If you're going to do something like this and you're going to get sponsored by that company and you're owning that company, you have to do it properly. You have to have that board of directors. You have to have a hierarchy. You have to have people who are able to override your decision, things like that. So to show what's called the employer-employee relationship. The employer is the business. You are still an employee, even though you have percentage ownership of that company. So it has to be looked at very, very carefully.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think that was very important because so many, our friends only, our viewers only, when they go for H1B, one thing is for sure that they ask regarding business also.
Mhm.
So I think this is what the answer is. And let's go ahead with my next question. And this is something about like, is it true, Nandini, that the H1B holders have no right if they are fired or laid off? Because currently, also, like few days back, also, we have been hearing in Silicon Valley, so many H1B visa holders have been laid off.
Yeah.
So I think it is a very timely question. So please go ahead and let us know about the reality.
Okay. So the reality is that, you're here in the US based on work, right? That was on a work permit, you were sponsored by an employer. Like
Mhm.
that's how you came here. So when that employer does lay you off or fire you for whatever reasons, um, there is an issue here for you because the reason you're here is because of them. So, but what are your options? Okay, if that happens to you. Well, luckily, about, I want to say 6 to 7 years ago, we got a new law that says that you can have a 60-day grace period if you are terminated or laid off, as long as you have still 60 days left on your I-94, then you can stay in the country. You can't work, but you can stay in the country. And that gives you an opportunity to find another employer, change your status, or wrap up your life and go and depart, the US and stuff. Those were not available, guys, to your viewers for like until 6 years ago. So if you got laid off 6 years ago, you're done. There's no, options here. Um, the other thing that H-1B holders really need to be aware of is if you get laid off or fired, you are entitled to return transportation back home. What does that mean? So when they lay you off, let's say they have to give you money or buy your one-way ticket back to your home country, not for your spouse or your kids or anything. They just have the obligation to you. So that's a second thing that has to be there as a right that you have to be aware of. So they can't just be like, okay, bye, end of the day. No, they got to give you this opportunity.
Mhm.
Third is, and remember this very, and I know people don't want to sue and all of these type of things, but you actually have the same rights of anyone who's a US worker, meaning that if you were fired because you are a whistleblower, you were fired because there was some reason because they're trying to just get rid of you or something because you're older or any of those things, the same protections that a US worker has, you have. Now, what does that mean? Now, let's say you are a whistleblower and you got fired because said you complained about something that the company was doing wrong, and they fire you because of that. You can sue them. I know H-1B people and people won't think of doing that and stuff like that because they're so afraid. But you are not some separate category of an employee. You have those rights. You are protected in this country under those same guidelines that I'm protected under. So don't be afraid that of, if somebody you did something like that or whatever, and you get fired because of that, don't like consult an attorney, labor and employment attorney, and maybe there's an option for you to get a settlement or something of that. Again, these are not things I'm advocating So please make sure that people understand that. And it should not be some sort of frivolous thing. If it's you got laid off because you got laid off because they don't have work, there's nothing you can do about that. So this is, again, simply about other circumstances, which is provable, not any fantasy that's coming up in anybody's head. It's actually provable that you are still having that same protection. So keep that in mind if any of these things are happening. But if you're laid off, you got your 60-day grace period, you return transportation, money, and that's it, really. Those are your options in front there. But at least you have the 60 days. Not a lot of time. I wish they would have moved it to 90 at least, but at least you got that much time.
That's right. And that's very well said. And that was really insightful, Nandini. But also, there's a follow up question that is coming in my mind.
Mhm.
All right. For once, for example, if there's any employer who got laid off, then
Mhm.
is it like if he's applying for the H-1B visa for the second time? I mean, not he's applying, but maybe the next employer, somebody
Mhm.
from USA is applying and hiring the same candidate who got laid off maybe 4 years back or 5 years back. Then
Mhm.
is that laying off thing going to impact their future visa application?
No, not at all. As long as they didn't work without authorization. So let's say these guys got laid off, right? Last week. And we've been hearing about this for the past many months, right? Of layoffs going on. No, just because they got laid off does not impact their visa application the next time around or a year from now. Any of that. There's no negative consequence that's going to happen to their application. Now, if in during that 60-day grace period before they file, they go and work somewhere and they find out about this illegal work, yeah, then that you have an impact. But you got laid off, you had 60 days on day 42, you filed the petition that got approved, and then you started working. No, it has no impact. I
All
have
right.
filed so many of those type of cases, and I explained it. Hey, he's not subject to the 60-day grace period. The clock began here. We're filing timely. You explain it out in the letter. You're perfectly okay.
All right, that's a great thing because Nandini, I asked this question about the future visa application. This maybe I didn't add it in the questionnaire, but this is another myth. I don't know, of course, it's a myth that what people are having in their mind. So thank you so much for that explanation and clearing up that doubt because that was also very important. And okay, let me go ahead with my next question that I have here. In the current immigration climate, as we all know, it's little uncertain. So, what are the biggest new challenges or changes that you are seeing for H-1B applicants?
I mean, I'm seeing a lot. I think, you know, at the core level, at the real basic level, this administration is not interested in keeping this program alive, right? They want to dismantle the program. The good thing is it's a program that can't be dismantled by executive action. Trump cannot just dismantle it. It was created by Congress and it has to go through this whole process. And so I don't think that's they can dismantle it. I don't think it'll ever get dismantled. But I find the biggest challenge H-1B people, and this is again for everyone who's on a visa here, they are going to find that things that were routine previously, like a routine application, is going to get more difficult. It's going to get kicked back a little bit more. It's going to be a longer processing time. I mean, I think your viewers need to understand that he's planning on closing a lot of consulates
Yeah.
across the world, right? Now, what does that do when you do that? It creates that queue for the visa interviews, right? Now we're instead of 120 days or 30 days, you might be looking at a year to get a visa appointment, you know? So I think the biggest challenge is the mindset of this administration that is seeking to really tamp down this program or all foreign workers, try to make it harder, put up hurdles in front of everyone, take away certain protections that are in place, and add new restrictions, right? One of the things yours might be interested to know is at some point, and I think this will become shortly, he, especially for software consulting companies who place people at customer sites, they're asking, well, what's the customer's requirements for an H-1B for this type of position? How is somebody supposed to find that out? Sometimes my client doesn't even know the end customer because there's layers in between and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
So it just makes the application difficult. It makes it nerve-wracking. It makes it something that was routine 1,000 times more difficult now. So I see that as the biggest thing. It is the environment we're working on under right now in this administration. We are going to face challenges on the daily. And we're not going to have a heads up. That's the other part that, we're not going to know in advance of anything. We're finding out just like everybody else finds out through the media, through what's happening when they're going and picking up F1 students and canceling their CVAs.
Mhm.
It's not like some announcement went out, right? So that is a real challenge for people because you always have to be nervous then if you're on a visa during this administration. So, but you know, you got to do the best you can with that and try to stay out of what could potentially cause problems for you if you can. I mean, that's all advice I can give on that. But yeah, your challenges are this administration coming up. It's coming.
All right. I think now it's really, I would say, high time for everyone, to be aware about everything, to be very vigilant, to be cautious. And I think, friends, if you will get the right guidance and, if you're updated with everything, then of course you're going to make your own way. And there's no one who can stop you. You just have to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe to Immigration Talk Show, because we come up with these insightful webinars and also with lots of different news updates that is very important for our viewers to be aware about and to get themselves updated regarding anything that's happening in the world of immigration. So just make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And also, the best thing is that you can also press the bell icon so that whenever we come up with any news update or any live webinar, you'll get the notification. So thank you so much, Nandini, once again, for explaining these things in a very simpler term and that too in a very interesting way. So I think let's also greet to our audience. I can see lots of viewers have joined us: Sonia, Kritika, Christopher. So thank you guys for being here. And let's take one of the questions of Sonia. I'll take first. So Sonia is saying a lot of people say that the H-1B visa is only for people in tech jobs. Yeah, this is again a very important one. But I have heard that this isn't necessarily the case. So can you clarify which types of jobs or industries are eligible?
Okay, that's absolutely true. That their H-1B program is not for tech jobs. The program was created in 1990, so decades and decades ago, and the tech boom had not yet really happened. It was on its way. Um, the H-1B can be filed for any job. Okay, if you have an employer, any job that requires at least a bachelor's degree for that industry. So I do tech, absolutely, but I do physicians, I do dentists, I do accountants, I do finance people, I've done marketing executives, HR people, um, you know, fashion individuals, civil engineers, like anybody you can think of that they're going to work in a profession that requires a bachelor's degree or higher. That position in itself qualifies for an H-1B. Now, of course, who uses the program the most? Yes, tech people uses the H-1B program because outside of the United States, there is a great talent. We see it from India, we see it from China, and Europe and things like that, that the technology curriculum is strong in those countries, and there are individuals who are willing to come to the United States or want to come to the United States. And so the program is utilized a lot to bring in that type of talent. But that is a myth that it is only for tech workers. You can use that program for definitely other professions out there. So don't let that be the thing that everybody thinks. It's not true.
That's right. All right. So, Sonia, thank you so much for your question. And in case, if you still have any follow up question, then please go ahead and put them on the comment section. We are really going to take that question, and I'm sure Nandini is going to provide the best answer for that. Okay, so let me take Kritika's comment here. So, hi Kritika, and thank you so much for joining us. She's saying, can you clarify the distinction between work authorization and immigration status in the context of H-1B visa, particularly with respect to the differences between H-1B approval notices, I-94 cards, and I-797 forms, and how do these documents impact an individual's ability to work and remain in the US?
Oh, Kritika, that's a long question. Wow, I'm gonna have to do an immigration class at this point. Okay, so let's talk about this. And there is a distinction. You're absolutely right. Work authorization does not mean that's immigration status, and vice versa.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about. So, what is your status? Your status in the country is H-1B, is H-4, it's L-2, it's L-1. Like that's your status, right? That's what you are doing in the country. Like that's where how you came into the country. Now, you can be here, like for example, let's take this. H-4. You're here legally, your immigration status is H-4, but that visa does not allow you to work without other things happening first, right? So you don't have work authorization. You can be in the country, you can live here, you can go get your driver's license, you can do all of those things, but you cannot work, right? It doesn't allow that. It's not enabled for that status. Now, for an H-1B, you can come into the country, you are an H-1B, that's your status. Now, let's say we talked about before the transfer petition, right? You do employer A, and then employer B, you file that application, the transfer application. That case gets denied. Okay. Now, your ability to work under that employer, your work authorization is gone if you joined employer B. Think about also people like got laid off. We were just talking about this, right? So that 60-day grace period. So you got laid off today. Today is April 30th. Okay. Because the law allows you to have those 60 days, tomorrow someone asks you and stops you and says, what is your immigration status? You can say, I'm on H-1B because the law allows you to say that for that 60 days. But are you allowed to work for anybody? No, you are not. You are in the country legally. Nobody's going to do anything to you. But are you allowed to work? No. And that is the difference, that status does not necessarily mean you can work. And you have to remember that distinction very carefully. Because if you think just because you are here in valid immigration status, whether it's H-4, H, whatever, that automatically that translates into you allowing to work for, at a gas station, work for at a store, work at an employer, whatever it is. No, that is not the same thing. So be very mindful of these two terms. It does not mean it is the same thing. And you have to understand that. And if you don't, you really need to talk to someone and make sure you don't work without authorization. Because one of the things I will say, the challenge the Trump administration is going to look at is individuals who have worked without authorization. These are kind of the questions that are coming up in H-1B applications now that we're seeing. So we're very mindful, and we're doing a lot of review of someone's work history um, before we're filing a case, because we have just kind of started, and I started about a month ago that we've been seeing some of these things coming up. So be careful.
That's right. And I think, Kritika, be very mindful and be very particular about the steps you are taking. And in case if you have any doubt about your case, or please let us know what your status is right now in the comment section only. And the great thing is that you can also get in touch with attorney Nandini Nair. And the contact details are on the screen, so you can go ahead and give her a call on the number. Also, share your case or share your query with the email ID, and you can also go ahead and check out her website. That will be really helpful for you and the best we can advise right now. So, Kritika, I hope that till now you have subscribed to our channel. If you haven't done it yet, then make sure that you do it right now. Okay, Christopher is here, and let's take Christopher's comment. What are the potential implications of AI and machine learning on H-1B visa requirements, particularly with respect to the definition of specialty occupation and the assessment of an individual's qualifications, and how might AI driven tools impact the H-1B petition process?
Okay.
Interesting.
Very interesting. What do I think about AI? I get this asked all the time. I'm not afraid of AI for myself. I think, for example, I think I have value besides my H-1B petition drafting or my support letter. I think there's more to me, than that. So that's one. But what do I think is going to have to be the impact for an H-1B? I think the impact for everyone across the globe is that AI is going to reduce the number of available jobs,
Yeah.
in certain sectors.
Mhm.
And so that will create a less of a need for foreign talent, right? That's where the impact is you're going to see. You're going to see employers like, I don't need to hire anybody extra. I don't need this because now a project that I needed 10 people for, and I hired two H-1Bs because I couldn't find them. I don't need 10 people. I only need four because AI can pick it up, the rest of it. So where do I see impact? The economic impact of AI is going to be that there's going to be less jobs out there, and the top of the top or the middle of the top, all of those people are the ones who are going to be employed, and the people who are more in the lower level with less technical skills and less skills generally are going to not be able to rise into those type of positions. So that's what I think. One, now, like again, AI tools for the H-1B application process. I think, the goal of CIS and all of these government agencies is to use AI to facilitate a less paper filing process, which I would welcome. I don't want to be filing paper. I want to file things online as much as possible. It's easier for all of us, right? So I think we're going towards that process. But here's the part of AI. Now you are going to have a computer or these high level tools who are going to be able to check an application for thoroughness, check the applicant's information so quickly that if there is incorrect information in your profile, it's going to come up like this, right? Whereas an officer, again, we're human beings, right? The officer's like, okay, this application looks fine. I'm tired. Like I'm gonna just approve it. They don't have to work like that anymore. The AI is going to do that. If you notice, they ran a code, a script to pick up the F1 students. That's how they found the ones who had issues. They used AI in the background to went through state databases to see anyone who's been arrested, charged, and things like that, and pulled up those and cross-matched with CIS to see who's on a visa. And they filtered that out, and that's how they picked up the F1 students and canceled their visas. So
Yeah.
as much as it's going to go forward to be, I think, great, and hopefully streamline the process, this is where the background will be.
That's perfectly explained. I would say, Nandini, that was really insightful. And of course, talking about AI, this is another myth. And of course, it is related to H-1B because people are thinking that AI is going to replace jobs and they are so afraid. But what you explained, that is very well put up. And I'm sure that it's nothing to be afraid of. In fact, it's more about, supporting humans as people are doing manually, and they may get tired or they may be overburdened, so they may overlook works. But AI is really helping, and just within a second it's making things very easier. So
It's an evolution. We have to accept it. I don't know that why people jump crazy about it. Did we not go from horse and carriage to a car?
yeah,
That when that happened, a lot of people lost their job.
exactly.
That's what happens. So it's going to happen here.
That's right. And there's nothing to be afraid of, friends, because that's how you are going to develop. And if AI is developing, I think you should also develop your skills.
Yeah, agree.
So that's
Agree.
great. Yeah, be competitive, be positive, be hopeful, and also keep watching our session. I'm sure that our friends are watching our session and really enjoying it. And with that, Shiva is here. So, hi, Shiva. Thank you so much for your question. Let's take up your question. Can we change employer before landing into US? I mean, can we transfer employer from India itself after stamping done? Okay, so let me go ahead with the next one. Is this a myth or a fact? Presently working for MNC in India, but coming to USA via consultancy. Is that fine during stamping interview if I have proper answer why I'm coming via consultancy? Okay, so let's answer the first one first. Yeah.
Okay. So let's take this one at a time. So can I change my employer before I come to the US? So I'm assuming, so got an employer A to file the H-1B, got it approved. You went for stamping with employer A information. And now you're like, I don't like employer A or whatever. Employer A is not wanting to bring me on board now, but I found employer B. Can I file a petition under employer B? And the answer is it depends on how long ago employer A filed your application and got the approval. So there is a time frame of 6 years. Generally, how I do it. Okay, and different lawyers have different ways of calculating this, but mine is 6 years from the day from the fiscal year you got your H1 approved. If you got within, let's say, 2 years, okay, employer A didn't want to bring you on, but you have this H, you got your visa stamp. Now B's like, oh, you have a visa already approved? Come on board, let me file for you. Can they do that? Yes, they can do that. Because, and not go through the lottery, because that's the follow-up question. Do I have to go through the lottery again? No, you don't. Because the point was that you've already been counted against the lottery, right, within that 6 year time frame, and so you're not subject to it. So is it possible to do that? Yes, it is possible. Again, timeline is critical. When was the H1 from employer A approved? We would have to look at that and see if then we can take you to employer B. But yes, it is possible.
All right, that's a good one. But I wonder, Nandini, that does this even happen? Can we change employment? This is a very new question for me. But still, viewers are interacting with us. We are getting to know a lot of information. So thank you so much, Nandini, for putting up that answer. And let's go ahead with the next question of Shiva. Yeah, presently working for MNC in India, but coming to US via consultancy. Is that fine during stamping interview if I have a proper answer why I'm coming via consultancy?
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, if you are able to articulate why you are going to leave the MNC and come to this maybe smaller company, I'm assuming in the US. If you're able to articulate a valid reason, and I'm assuming you're going to be saying something like, better opportunities in the United States, blah blah, whatever it is, you're going to say, and you're able to successfully get the stamping done based on that. Yeah, absolutely. Again, just because you work for an MNC in India does not preclude you or stop you from getting a visa issued by the Department of State or the U.S. consulate. It That's not going to be that relevant. I mean, now there are going to be officers who may ask some silly questions. You always have to be prepared for that. But if you have a good answer, and there are definitely good answers as to why you would want to come to the U.S., I think you should be okay. But you got to remember, you got 5 minutes, or maybe even 2 minutes sometimes. So articulate well. Don't don't sit there and be shy. You got to speak well.
And I think speaking skills you should get from Nandini Nair because she's excellent in that. So we can understand, like, you'll be a great mentor to her. So Nandini, please go ahead. And I would say, Shiva, you can also get in touch with Nandini, not only regarding your immigration complexities, but also how to develop or, to get better in speaking skills. That will be great. Okay, so let me take up Rao's question. And hi, Rao, thank you so much for joining here. What are the H-1B extension requirements in 2050?
I'm thinking he means 2025. I think that's
Yeah,
a type.
absolutely. Why 2015? I mean, it's 2025. Okay, yeah, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
10 years ago, I'm going to look a little bit younger, at that point. In 2025, again, I think the application process is very similar to what has been in the past few years, but the level of scrutiny, the level of review is going to be something that is going to be challenging. I think what everybody needs to understand is what's going to happen is your entire being, your entire environment, your entire background is now going to be looked at, right? Because there's rules now coming out that they're going to check your social media, right? That they're going to look at your phones and when you come back in, they're looking at see whether you're a pro-activist, right? In you were you marching in against Israel and like all of those type of things. So I think the biggest thing for viewers to understand is all of you, like your world is under their scrutiny now. It's not just going to be the H-1B. It is all these external things that now you have to be mindful of. Did you file your AR-11 in time? That's a question that people are not thinking about. There's a rule. They put that in the rule has always been there for decades and decades. But people would like, oh, I moved, I didn't do the AR-11 for 6 months. The law says within 10 days, guys, you know? And are they going to hold you to that? Yeah. Now they're going to hold you to it. What are they going to do about it? We have yet to know what's going to happen. But could they utilize this as an issue? Absolutely. So remember, your entire world is being looked at.
That's right. And that's very important for everyone, not only for Rao, but for everyone, to go ahead and look for this information. And Rao, I would say that, till the time if you haven't subscribed to our channel, and I think you are little new to our channel because for the very first time you have asked any question. So we do have these amazing webinars, and, our channel is all about immigration world. So it's really going to be helpful, and also let us know, what are your current status, or if you have any other question for Nandini, then we are really going to take them up, as we are here for you guys only. And also subscribe to Immigration Talk Show, another very important thing. Okay, so Nandini, till now we have covered so many questions from our viewers, but just with your permission, if you have 5 more minutes extra, then we can also go ahead and take some Facebook questions as well, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay. So, control. Yeah. So this we got from Manav, and he's asking, I'm on F1 and traveling to India in the summer for 15 days, and will be coming back for the internship in June. Will it be safe to travel?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say don't travel. I really am concerned for my F1 students right now. They seem to be really on the target for this administration for, I have no idea why, there's so much more they could go after. But I, if you were my client, I would ask you to decline that trip. I would say please avoid that trip at least for another year or so until we have a little bit more information on what this administration is going to do and what the courts are going to do about it. Because I can't trust your ability to return at this point, without issue. So my recommendation is don't travel.
All right. So, Manav, I hope you got your answer. And, any other query, please go ahead and let us know. Okay, so let me take up Senim question. We had our interview on the 17th April 2025. My husband is the main applicant for our diversity visa. Our case went to 221G due to my husband's y- uh, arrest years back. Visa officer requested a court document, just two questions. Why do they keep all our passports? And once we submit the court documents, do we get a chance for approval? What do you have to say, Nandini?
Okay, so they always keep your passport for every visa interviews. That's a very common thing. It's nothing that's specific to you or to individuals. If you want your passports back, you're basically asking to withdraw the application. Because remember, if the application is successful, you're going to get a visa issued within the pages of the passport. That's one of the reasons that they keep it, right? They're not going to then want to call you in for another interview and do all of those things. They do it all in one shot.
Yeah.
Now, submitting the court documents. Do you get a chance for approval? It's all going to be dependent on what the reason was. How long ago was the arrest? What the issue was? A lot of those type of things. Do I think there's a strong chance of approval? I think you're in a tough situation because you're seeing that for any slight reason, the administration is denying applications or deporting people and things like that, right? So I would be concerned if that is the reason that you got the 221G and they're asking for these documents. Um, the level of success might be a little bit lower. So I want you to be mentally prepared for that possibility. It doesn't mean it can't get approved. I'm not saying that, but just keep that in mind that submission of those court documents is not the end of the story. It is just the beginning of the journey you're going to be on for this.
Wow, that's really great. Thank you so much, Nandini, for making us aware about the reality, but that too with some motivating lines, because that is also very necessary, because people are quite scared and very anxious. So,
Mhm.
friends, if you are on the right track, I said that nobody is going to stop you. So be little hopeful, be little resilient, because with right guidance, that too, if you're going to approach with the right attorney, then that's going to be like wonderful for you. So get in touch with attorney Nandini Nair, and share with her any doubts, any questions, any queries, and she is here to give you the expert advice. And I'm sure that you'll feel better and you'll do better. Okay, so let's move ahead with the next question. And this we got from anonymous participant. Hello, I'm looking for an immigration attorney. Okay. My husband and I have been married 5 years. We have a house and children. We have filed I-130 and it is still being reviewed. However, my husband's I-485 was declined due to not sending the correct documentation. I sent 2020 W2 and not 2023. We have to appeal with an I 209B. They are revoking his EAD to work. So, has anyone gone through this? Any recommendation? Yeah, any lawyer? Of course, we are going to share your contact details, Nandini, but what are your views on that?
Okay, well, I'm trying to understand what kind of preference category they're under. I'm going to try to assume U.S. citizen filing for spouse, because the way they're saying married, and file the I-130 and the 485. In my opinion, I don't think the 290B, again, not knowing a lot of the facts on this and what exactly happened, is going to be helpful. If it's a category of U.S. citizen spouse,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would refile that 485. That would be my advice. The 290B is not. It's the processing times are ridiculous, and you know, getting that EAD to be reinstated is going to be ridiculous. Based on the limited information, my gut is like I'd rather refile that 485. You know, in my opinion. But again, facts matter. The entire story matters. So take this with that information that I don't know the full facts and stuff, and kind of maybe talk to an attorney and give them the full facts, and maybe there will be a difference in a strategy at that point. But just this limited way, yeah, I'm looking at refiling that.
All right. And this anonymous participant is looking for an immigration attorney. So, friend, here's the detail. Here's the expert here sitting in front of us. The contact number is 973-287-0966 with the email ID nnair@aystrauss.com, and the website is www.aystrauss.com. So, Nandini, I think that's all for today's episode. And these were the Facebook questions. And we also got two questions from Rao. So, I mean, if you allow, can we take that questions because it's
Sure.
already 1-6. All
Yep,
right.
that's fine. No problem.
That's so sweet of you. So Rao is here and asking, is it mandatory to carry client letter with consulting company? Client won't share letters to contractors. Any guidance on it?
No, it's not mandatory. No. I say that very quickly and don't jump on me on that because I'm going to go into more about it.
All
Is it
right.
mandatory? No, it's not mandatory. Okay. However, let me give you what goes on the ground. Okay. They're going, especially with a consultancy company that may not be big and well known, right? We're talking like the TCSs, Wipros, Cognizants. I'm talking the smaller companies and stuff like that, maybe 25 employees and stuff. There is this issue where people or the consulate thinks that the letters might be fake, or there's issues whether the project is real and things like that, because there's been those issues, those there have been such incidences, right? um, and they're going to be wary of that situation. So yes, you don't need the client letter and stuff. However, if and when they ask you at that interview who's going to be the end client you're working for, and you say let's say Pfizer, right, is the end client or something like that, and you are not able to provide real good state like information that you are actually that's where you're going to go to, it creates doubt. It creates an issue in the officer's mind. And remember, you got that 2 to 3 minutes, 4 minutes in front of that officer. What's the alternative? The alternative is to see if you can get an SOW, a purchase order with your name on it by Pfizer. That's the way it will be okay or helpful. Now, again, what everything I tell you is in general. Okay. There are people who've gone without any issues. There are people who had the client letter and got the denial too. Okay. So it's not that just having the client letter. What I walk you through is how can you present yourself the best? It's not a guarantee. It's how what do I do? Right? It's like you dressing up in a nice suit when you're going to an interview, right? If you came in sloppy jeans and a t-shirt, what's the impression you're making? It's the same concept when you go to the consulate. What's the best presentation I can show to this person in front of me that I am actually going to be working at Pfizer for this company? That's how you have to look at it. And yes, if Pfizer does not issue those letters, because many end companies will not do that, then what else can you show? What else is there available? Again, one case is not the same as the next case. One case can show this, another case can show that. It all is an individual situation. So walk yourself through that process as to think, how do I best handle this? Can I get that statement of work at least?
That's right. And I think this is almost the same question. I'm on H-1B with consultancy company. The client is not sharing letters to contractors. Of
Mhm.
course, it's the same. Most insurance companies won't share letters to contractors.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's a common scenario. What I like to prep people with when I send them to the consulate, when I don't have the client letter, do I have a end client contact? Possibly, because what's going to happen? They're going to reach out to the end client. We all know this, generally. So you want that point of contact to get that email and be able to verify, yes, we're expecting Rao on this project and stuff like that. So again, just like I said, what other things can we do to make you look the best you can in front of this officer?
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all situation, guys. It is going to be individualized. It's going to be customized, um, and that is how you go in front of them. And also speaking, you got that 3 minutes. You got to articulate it. I constantly have these issues with my clients who don't are not able to articulate things. You got to be able to practice. And I always tell them, Practice some of the possible questions. You go online, you will find the typical questions that a consulate officer is going to ask you. Practice, be
Yeah.
strong, like you got to look like you're telling the truth. Not that you're not, right? But you got to be strong. And people who are strong in front of the consulate officer will be more successful.
Yeah.
Somebody's not going to push me, right? Because if I know what I'm saying, it's not going to, like, I know what I'm saying about immigration, right? It's the same way. But ask me a technical question or how my iPhone works, I have no clue. But, same way.
Absolutely. And I think it's not only Nandini, in consular offices, somebody is liking if somebody is providing strong answers. In general life also,
Mhm.
somebody is going to be confident and, share any insight strongly, then that becomes little more catchy. So it's
Yeah,
nothing hard and
preparation is
fast
key.
rule. Yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
No, I was just going to say preparation is key. Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, guys, I know what I've been doing for 25 years, but I still prepared for today, right? Like thinking about what I could, questions and possible things and stuff. Preparation is key. Don't go into that interview blind. It's like you got to know what you're talking about. You got to be able to answer these questions. So again, I'm like very strong with my clients about all of these things because I want them to get the visa, you know. And sometimes I do interview preps and things like that. So they're, yeah, do all that.
That's great. That's wonderful. And that is so inspiring. So thank you so much, Nandini, for your time. I know it is 1:13, I mean like 1 hour, 13 minutes. And really appreciate your time. You patiently answered so many questions. So really honored to have a second episode with you. And that too, we didn't even realize how this 1 hour got passed away. So, again, thank you so much for being here. And as always, it's our pleasure, it's our honor to have a show with you. Any last message, any last tip that you want to share with our viewers, then please go ahead.
I would just say that, immigration overall is challenging. It is a beautiful thing. I think this country is the best when it has diversity of thought, diversity of people from all over. But it is a challenging time. Be mindful, be careful, get the advice that you need, tread lightly on whatever you're doing. Is what I my advice to you is for the next couple of years. Be careful out there and stuff.
All right. That is a beautiful message with a very insightful tip as well. So, thank you so much, Nandini, for being here. And soon we are looking to have another episode with you again. So hope to see you again and have a great day. And again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
All right. Okay, friends, so that's all for today's episode. Hope you like this video. And in case if you still have any questions or any doubts regarding today's webinar, then please go ahead. The questions section is just on the left of your screen. Put them on there, and we are going to take up those questions even after this live stream ends. Don't forget that we are live on YouTube, available on LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and on Instagram as well. Follow us on these many platforms. And also, if you haven't liked, share, and subscribe to our channel, then make sure you do it right now, because that is the only way you can keep yourself updated. And can keeping you updated is really a very important factor in today's preparation. So don't miss out that. Also press the bell icon. And it's me, Sam, signing off for now. So goodbye, everyone, and take care.